Hey guys, welcome to ENGL 334W. My name is Dr. Richards, as you can see here. I'm going to be doing these mini lectures as I am right now at the beginning of every week, like I said in the syllabus on Mondays, just to give you a sense of what's going on this week or that specific week, to address problems that you would be able to address like in the classroom setting, or that I would like to address in a classroom setting so I can help frame the projects better for you guys. So that's the point of these mini lectures. The point of this first mini lecture 1, does two things. One, to talk about the things that are due this week for you, but also to introduce you very briefly to the field of technical communication, because I think that's necessary at this point, because I feel as though there might be some confusion. Some of you might have background in this area, some of you are coming completely fresh and have no idea what's going on. So I want to provide some context for you here. All of the assignments that you have to do this semester are part of what's called the documentation cycle. You can see that behind me right there. Proposal, research, progress report, and then the final recommendation report. So what I mean by documentation cycle is in each class that I teach, specifically in technical writing 334W, I like to simulate a workplace experience. I like to simulate solving a workplace problem, and I like having students engage in the type of documentation that they would probably engage in if they were at a workplace. So that's why there's a lot of formal elements to the writing you have to do this semester. There's no academic essays traditionally. I think the closest thing that comes to academic writing would probably be your weekly reading notes that are due on a weekly basis, and that I'll touch on at the end of this video. So as you can see from the syllabus, you're going to be approaching one of three cases, one of three problems, because I do see, as you can also see there, technical writing as a problem-solving activity. What that means is the writing that's done in the workplace, or the writing that's done in technical fields or in non-academic settings, is in essence solving problems, communication problems, risk problems, understanding problems, problems of clarity, whatever kind of social problems. So through that lens is how we're kind of framing the class, and you get to choose which one of the cases that you would like to contribute research for. So this is a short class, to say the least. It's 6 weeks, and this is typically 15 weeks, and I don't compromise content in summer class. So it is 15 weeks squeezed into 6. So it is important that you do know that. I don't cut out any content. Summer classes should be intense, and they should be hard, and that's my approach to the class. So one thing that you'll probably notice right away is that the class is called technical writing and the textbook is called technical communication. Now from reading chapter 1, you'll most likely understand why. For now, it's important for you to know that technical writing is a more traditional term for the type of workplace communication that we're dealing with this semester. And the reason why it's called technical communication now is over the last 10 or 15 years, people have started to realize that a lot of the communication that people do in workplaces or in professional or technical settings is not just textual, and that there are visual elements involved in it as well. That's why it's called technical communication, because it's more than just writing. Some of it is visualization, some of it is web-based type of communication, where the term writing in the traditional sense doesn't really capture the kind of work that gets done by people in this field. So that's the short justification for why you might sense some disconnect in language. Sometimes you'll hear it called professional and technical writing, sometimes you'll hear it called business writing, and then even the fact that you have a course named one thing and a textbook named the other. Just do keep in mind that, as is unsurprising in the university, the terms are a bit slower to change because universities tend to operate at a glacial pace, and workplaces tend to move a bit quicker. So the technical communication textbook is workplace-based, and it's more based upon the actual practice that's being done right now. In technical writing, in the course description, ENGL 334W reflects a more traditional approach. Underneath the mini lectures here on Blackboard, you'll see this folder called Supplemental Readings. And they're called supplemental because you're not accountable for reading them. But if you have an interest in moving forward in technical writing or technical communication as a career, if you're in the IDS program, in the interdisciplinary studies program, or if you have an emphasis in professional writing, you might want to take a look at the articles that I've placed in there, because they'll help give you a better sense of the history and some context for technical writing that the practitioner-based textbook that I've chosen doesn't really get at. And one of the most important pieces in there is a piece by Robert Connors, and it's called The History of Teaching Technical Writing in America. And what it does is it traces the kind of three main impetuses, I guess you could say, for why technical writing has become what it's become. Not necessarily everyone knows what technical writing is, but a lot of technical writing does get done in a variety of workplaces. So there are many resources in that folder from the Society of Technical Communication and from Connor specifically and from Chapter 1 in the textbook that kind of gets you a sense of what is meant by technical writing. And for all intents and purposes, it's writing that's done in the workplace, whether it's a scientific workplace, a technical workplace, or a professional workplace, corporate workplace, any kind of non-academic, non-creative, in that traditional sense of the word, like poetry, kind of writing. Workplace writing might be a good way to write it as well, with workplaces being anything from an oil rig to an accounting office. So it's pretty wide ranging. That's why you'll see various definitions of it. So I would encourage you to kind of explore those definitions. I'm not going to give you one set definition because I don't think that's useful, because the purposes and the techniques of technical writing kind of emerge out of specific contexts and specific institutions. So if you read through the Connors article, it's a really fascinating history, kind of talking about how technical writing really came to fruition in the late 19th century with the influx of technology and all the engineers, and needing to educate them in letters and educate them how to write, because there were a lot of people at that time who were really good at engineers but who were probably functionally illiterate. So the courses that were being offered at universities were kind of seek to cultivate the humanities skills of the engineers there. And it was largely placed on the English department to teach language, because who else better to teach language? And we see that tradition kind of carry on today. A lot of people in English department who don't have any necessarily technical or scientific backgrounds are teaching how to write technically and scientifically. And then also post-World War II, with the influx of technologies, came a requirement to explain how to use these technologies to a variety of people. So the more complex the technology, the more need for clear, cogent communication to explain that technology, whether it's a weapon or whether it's a scientific mechanism, whatever it is, to explain it, to the user, so they know how to use it, and then also to the public, to explain to the public what's going on. And then the third kind of impetus that Connors doesn't really get at is in the 1970s, when environmental impact statements were mandated. So any sort of move, any sort of new site that was established, they had to communicate to the public what the environmental risks would be. And that also then came the need to explain scientific, mainly ecological, communication to the public. So what is this new factory going to mean to this community? Something as little as a park to something as big as an automotive factory. So there's this need to, and I'll show you an image later, to kind of bridge the gap between public and scientists. And technical writing certainly exists there too. So that was a really brief overview of the Connors article. Like I said, if you have an investment in this discipline, in this field, certainly all the articles I put in supplemental readings are aimed at you. And people who aren't don't feel required to read them. They're just there to supplement your knowledge of technical writing. So, like I said, technical writing is a problem-solving activity, and a lot of those problems stem from a lack or a miscommunication or a gap between two parties. So that could be between a person and another person in an organization. That could be between one organization and the public. That could be between scientists and the public. How to explain this complex scientific phenomenon to the public. It could be using technology to communicate one certain idea to a specific audience. So a lot of these iterations of technical writing and a lot of the different definitions you'll see are because communication bridges many gaps, right? A lot of miscommunication, a lot of problems, a lot of disasters even are caused by miscommunication. And that is also something that's in that supplemental reading list, is a piece by Malone talking about how a specific technical document in a certain case brought about an environmental disaster where over 5,000 containers of nuclear waste we're kind of exposing the public to some dangerous circumstances. So take a look at that. That's out of New Mexico. Take a look at that article as well if you want to see the importance of technical writing as a problem-solving activity, as being able to help people do better things, whether that's through the writing of instructions, to solving problems, or helping research like the ones that you're doing this semester, helping the university conduct research. So again, that's the way I'm framing the course, and I think it's very useful that you understand it that way as well. I think it's important that I reiterate the qualities of good technical writing. These are, I'm going to identify six qualities of technical writing that you should keep in mind moving forward throughout the class. These are kind of what you see in main textbooks as well, but also just to communicate to you what my values are as an instructor and what I'll be looking for. So I've created rubrics for each specific project, but it's important that you know specifically what I value as a teacher. I think it's very important that you know that straight up. So they are accuracy, clarity, conciseness, readability, usability, and correctness. Now, that is a pretty traditional idea of what technical writing is. So one of the most common technical writing genres is instructions, right? Is whether it's instructions you used to get with your VCR or DVD player back in the day, if you know what those are, or any sort of manual that helps you do something technical, whether that's an automotive guide or any sort of user manual. And that's aimed specifically at accuracy, technical accuracy, because you need to get things correct. Usability in the sense that they need to be usable. People need to know where to find information within that document, and it has to be correct as well. So within that traditional genre of instructions, you see a lot of these qualities emerge. So they're pretty traditional qualities, but I bring up these 6 qualities to kind of move you past academic and creative writing, where a lot of the purposes are to make things more complex, to add in words to show your intellect or your earnestness as a writer, I guess you could say, to kind of show how smart you are and the extent of your vocabulary. So you're kind of moving in the direction of complexity. In technical writing, you're moving in the opposite direction. You're moving towards simplicity, towards making complex things simple. So cogency, brevity, clarity, conciseness is the name of the game in technical writing. So I pay very much attention to details, whether that's grammatical things, word choices, structure, consistency in font, consistency in subheadings and headings, all these technical things, because this is what to me differentiates just someone who can communicate, someone who's a good technical writer. So someone who's a good technical writer pays attention to detail, and those who pay attention to detail know what they're talking about, and they care enough to pay very close attention to minor details, because errors in minor details, whether those are grammatical things or formatting problems, indicates a lack of attention to detail, and that is the exact opposite of what a technical writer is. A technical writer is someone who pays very close attention to clarity and conciseness and brevity, and if something can be said in less words, then it should be said in that way, if you're not compromising content. So that's what I value in this technical writing class, and that is the skill that I'll be asking you to kind of cultivate quickly over these 6 weeks. So just so there's no surprises in terms of what I value. So yes, I am an English professor, and I am impressed by verbosity and big words, but in technical writing classes, it's not as impressive, because it's showing a lack of awareness of your audience and lack of awareness of the purpose of the document, which is most likely to explain or to convince someone of something in a very short space, in small space. So, few final things. This is a writing class. There is a W, as you can see, the course code. What that means is, well, that means many things. One, you're going to be writing a lot over the next 6 weeks, because there are no exams. It's a writing class. But that also means that the focus of the semester is the actual writing yourself, right? So your job this semester is not necessarily to memorize the textbook and me assess you on your knowledge of the concepts. Your goal over the course of the semester is to improve your writing and to engage in writing, and the writing you produce is the focus of the class. So yes, we have a textbook, but when you're reading the textbook, so I'm having you do those weekly reading notes, and that's just to show me that you're reading it and that you're thinking about it. I do believe that when you write about something and synthesize it and are forced to apply it, It's one of those things that feels onerous and I guess um, tedious at the time, but it is very useful. And if you stick with it, I guarantee you'll see the use for it. But this textbook is more an application guide. This textbook helps you do these documents better. So whenever you read something from chapter 3 or chapter 8 or chapter 16 or whatever chapter I'm having you reading, always think about how the information in that textbook can be applied to help you better your projects. And that's the purpose of the textbook. That's why there's no exams. And that's really not why I'm kind of quizzing you with multiple choice answers about specific things or terminology, because that's not what writing classes are about. Writing classes is about you as a writer. Writing classroom is about you being able to read a textbook or a piece of writing and apply it to your own work, because your writing is the focus of this class. So it's very, very important that you know how to use the textbook. And don't read it in order to memorize it, read it in order to apply it. And I think that's a very key distinction that you'll have to make. So in that sense, it's very applied. And if any of you have taken a rhetoric course, you'll know that kind of rhetoric is using language persuasively to communicate something, or using language to do something. And that's the essence of rhetoric. And that's really the essence of technical writing as well. It's very praxis-based. It's very much based upon taking content and being able to do something in the world with it. So this is a very useful writing class, and I hope you get use out of it. The reason I bring that up is because this first week, you have your first weekly reading notes. Now, the syllabus goes into detail about what I'm expecting from weekly reading notes. It's essentially broken up into 3 categories: summary, synthesis, and application, making those 3 moves. So in the first one, for example, chapters 1, 3, and 14, you'll probably soon find out how am I supposed to summarize these 3 chapters that aren't related to each other in 10 lines or less, or not less, exactly 10 lines actually. And I would say back to that exactly. That is the purpose of technical writing, is to undergo the pain of taking complex processes and explaining them cogently, shortly, within confines and within structures that you'll find frustrating. So if you find that frustrating, welcome to technical writing. That is the kind of work that you'll have to do. It's a different kind of thinking, but it's a very useful thinking and something that I think we should be doing every week, and that's what we're doing every week. Make sure to use the template in there. I've already created the template for you, so you don't have to worry about how to format it. Just fill it in. It has to be 10 lines for each section. No more, no less. You'll start to see your point totals go down if you tinker with the format or if you are off by even a line. And that is not necessarily me being anal retentive in any way. That's me communicating to you that a lot of the writing that you'll be expected to do in a lot of these settings are very guideline based. And you'll encounter a lot of situations where it says 500 words means 500 words. 2 pages means 2 pages. Not 1.5, not 1 3/4, not 1 page and then 1 sentence onto the next page just so you see number 2 at the bottom of Microsoft Word. It means 2 pages. So that's to prepare you for that. There is a bonus quiz as well. Read the syllabus closely. I take syllabi very seriously. I feel bad that you have to read 11 pages of the syllabus closely, but in another way I do not, because that's communicating to you what I value. So read it closely, make sure you understand everything. Email me with any questions or clarifications you require about the syllabus. And then the introductory memo as well. The introductory memo is a useful activity on 2 fronts. One, to get you used to writing technical genres, the most common of which is a memo, and learn how to format a memo. And 2, to kind of get you thinking about project management skills. Can you forecast the next 6 weeks? I mean, no one can forecast the next 6 weeks of their lives, let's be honest, but can you think about the next 6 weeks of your life in relation to the projects and map it out? So I'm asking you to create a Gantt chart in the textbook. If you look in the glossary and look up Gantt chart, it'll say exactly what it is. It's just a visualization of a schedule. And then also you asking me any questions and kind of giving me information and discussing your approach to the class. And again, the details are in the syllabus as well. I want to end maybe with a brief introduction of myself. So like I said, my name is Dr. Richards. I've been at Old Dominion. I'm just finished up my second year here. I do specialize in technical and professional writing. I did my undergraduate and master's at the University of Windsor in Ontario in Canada. My undergraduate degree was in literature, and my master's degree was in literature with a focus in 18th century women's literature and in teaching. My PhD was in rhetoric and composition, which there's also an emphasis here in rhetoric and composition at Old Dominion University. And now I do technical and professional writing. And my research interests focus in risk communication. So communicating environmental risk to the public is what I'm primarily focused in. So that's the gist of myself. I'm looking forward to getting to know you, obviously via online, over the next 6 weeks. But I am open to emails if you just have a random thought. If you have a question about the course or about anything regarding your projects, I'm open to those emails. You'll see I have a strict email policy in the sense that it has to be professional. But if it is a professional email, I have no problem chatting back and forth with you. If you want to set up a Skype appointment, any Friday, I have from 9 to 12 open on Fridays. Set up an appointment with me during that time. So if you're planning on being on Skype at 10 a.m. on Friday, even if it's during my hours, do email me so we can set up and be specific. Or if you want to time outside those hours, feel free. So this mini lecture was 22 minutes, and I greatly apologize for that. The future ones are not going to be 20 minutes. I just want to give you a sense of technical writing as a whole. Historically, check out the supplemental readings if you really want. Get started on the weekly reading notes because they're due Thursdays of every week. And the next mini lecture should be about 5 or 10 minutes going forward, as I'm just going to be explaining what that week's tasks are. So it was great meeting you. Hope you made it through the entire video, and I look forward to reading both your weekly reading notes and getting to know you more in your introductory memo.